Hi all, my name is Alessandro Mastriani, I'm a composer and sound designer, and this is the first of a series of videos that I'm making in collaboration with Film Scoring Tips. Film Scoring Tips is the go-to place for everyone interested in film scoring. You'll find reviews, advice from top industry professionals, tutorials and much more at filmscoringtips.com. The guys at Film Scoring Tips know that I'm absolutely in love with my modular synth, which you'll find over there in the background. And they asked me if I wanted to make a series to introduce the film composer who's not aware of this wonderful creative word to modular synthesis. I gladly agree, and this is going to be the first video in this brand new series. So I thought, before we actually get into the nitty-gritty of modular synthesizers and we start talking about all that fun stuff, I hear so many composers that are almost against it and mention a number of things to support their vision that to me sound very much like myths. So I thought, let's start this series busting the top 5 myths that I hear about modular synthesizers. Myth number 1 is you can't get into modular without spending lots of money. Okay, so don't get me wrong, modular synths are obviously expensive, especially if you compare them to soft synths, which are probably the thing that we're most used to as film composers. However, this changed a lot in recent years. Modular synthesizers are very hot at the moment. They are very popular, so much so that even Behringer got into manufacturing. Manufacturers are always coming out with cheaper options that are very sensibly priced, even for the entry-level musician. A perfect example of that is the Chromatic series that Dreadbox makes. All of their modules are under $100. Ladik is another perfect example of a very small manufacturer based in Czech Republic. All of their modules are between $65 and $70. And even Döpfe was the father of the Eurorack format. Most of their modules are really no frills, sound great, and they're all very reasonably priced. So it's perfectly possible to get into Eurorack modular synthesizers for very little money, even less than other hardware synthesizers, and we are going to suggest a few beginner systems in the following episodes. Myth number 2 is that you can't get started in modular synthesis with just one module. This myth is rooted in a past where you didn't need more than one module to make at least a basic voice with an oscillator, a filter, and a voltage control amplifier at least. However, this changed tremendously in recent years. Mutable instruments, for example, a name that you'll learn to know and love in Eurorack synthesis, revolutionized completely the design of modular synthesizers, and a very popular first modules for many people has been mutable clouds, which is now discontinued, but there are other options are there that we'll discuss about. And that was essentially a granular processor with some effects in it, and many composers, is in fact the perfect entry point for film composers, just use that single module to go out of the box a little bit and to process their audio in interesting and very unique ways. That you can get started with just one module, not to mention the many options in semi-modular synthesizers. Examples are the Moog Supermonicon or the DFAM or the Mother 32 or many other, and those are all perfect entry points to the world of modulars with just getting one single instrument. Myth number 3 is that modular synthesis is complicated. My natural answer to this myth is that it's only as complicated as you want it to be. There is maybe a tiny bit of a learning curve at the beginning, like anything, but it's so much fun, and the resources out there nowadays are so many and so freely available that there is really no excuse not to get into that just because it's complicated. Not to mention that this time investment will teach you so much about synthesis and sound design that you will be able to apply all these things in many other areas of your journey as a composer. Myth number 4 is that modular synthesizers are impossible to integrate in a film scoring workflow. There is some truth in that, and it's obviously very hard to recreate a patch that you made in modular synthesis in your own session if you need to address revision notes or feedback or respond to feedback from your director or your producer. However, the answer to that is simple, and is sample, sample, sample. We have all the tools that we need to create our own unique palette of sounds, and the fact that no one else will have that palette of sounds is something that I very much like to strive for. And the cool thing about that is that by sampling, we use Contact in this series, but there are so many other options available, such as Decent Sampler by David Hilowitz, the built-in Logic sampler. And by doing that, you will have the flexibility of a MIDI instrument with the uniqueness of your modular synthesizer, an instrument that only you have. And our fifth and final myth is that modular synths are a waste of time. Yes, modular synthesizers are a massive rabbit hole, and many musicians say that when they get into modular synthesizer, they just start fiddling around and they don't get anything done. They can't write any music with it. And that is absolutely your responsibility as an artist to make sure that that doesn't happen. Always finalize everything that you do to making music, and you will find out that that is not a waste of time, but is a creative moment for you that will open your mind to new solutions in your composing journey. There is a podcast that I love, which is called Why We Bleep, and Alex, the host, was interviewing BT, an incredible electronic musician, if you don't know him. And BT was saying how he makes time to spend an entire afternoon just turning knobs and experimenting, and to find what would happen if you plug that output into this input. And modular synthesis allow you to get into these sort of weird experiments that will be so precious for your composing journey. This is it. I really hope you enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to show you my modular synthesizers and the way I use them in my film scoring workflow. And I'll see you next time.